Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Pugh. I am the chair for the Citizens Independent Salary Council for the city of Albuquerque. I have with us today several individuals. We are going to begin our process of reviewing the background for the mayoral and city council councilor salary. I'd like to do some formal introductions. I'm going to start with individuals that are on Zoom, and as I see them from my left to right, first I have Leslie. You introduce yourself, please, where you work.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm with the City of Albuquerque Office of Internal Audit and Inspector General's Office. I'm the Administrative Coordinator.
Very good. Nicole.
Hello, Nicole Kelly. I'm the Acting City Auditor and Acting Inspector General with the Office of Internal Audit and Office of Inspector General.
Very good. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Fafford Johnson. I am the Contract Auditor for the City of Albuquerque Office of Internal Audit.
Very good, thank you. And John? Unmute, John.
I'm John Du Bois. I'm an Assistant City Attorney with the Legal Department for the City of Albuquerque, and I am the counsel assigned to the Salary Commission.
Very good. And we are currently at the Albuquerque Convention Center in the Kiva boardroom. In the boardroom, I have three other individuals who are not on screen. I will ask them to introduce themselves at this time, starting with Andrew.
Andrew Higgins, moved to Albuquerque in 2019. I have about 10 to 15 years of both military and human resource civilian background, and also compensation. So I'm definitely looking forward to being part of this committee and also giving back to Albuquerque since I have been here. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
I'm Dwayne Trithall, retired business owner that had a business here for 43 years, and which we sold about 5 years ago.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Senor?
I'm Jose Ponce. I'm a lifelong resident and I'm a writer. And pretty much it. Was on the committee last year, and I'm on since 2022. And this is part of my community service.
Very good. Thank you. And we do have one other individual who is not with us at this particular time. He may show up, but officially this is a 5-member panel. We have 4 members here, so officially we do have a quorum to proceed. So we will proceed with today's meeting. So I go back to the agenda for the day. Our first action item after call to order and roll call is approval of the minutes from February 11th of 2021. Have all the committee members had a chance to review the minutes?
Yeah,
Yes.
the only difference is that we have listed the meeting as being in March and that April, but as far as other than that.
Okay. Any comments or any motion to accept the minutes as they're written?
So move. I will second.
And take any discussion on that? At this point, no. Approval by voice vote, which means that because we are not on camera, I need all of you to identify your name and your vote, whether it's yea or nay. We'll start with you, Jose.
Step one, say I vote aye.
Dwayne?
Dwayne Trithall, I vote aye.
Andrew Higgins.
Andrea Higgins, and myself as an aye. So from those in attendance, minutes pass 4-0. Okay. Second thing on the action items is presentation by the Office of Internal Audit regarding its research and analysis of mayoral and councilor salaries. Nicole, is that you, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for the opportunity to present our findings regarding the evaluation of salaries for the mayor and city councils for 2021. So just as a little background, Leslie, if you don't mind sharing your screen and we can present the slide. Thank you. And you can jump to slide 2, please. Okay. So as many of you know, in 2009, the Albuquerque voters approved the creation of the Citizens Independent Salary Commission. The commission is tasked with evaluating the salaries paid paid by the city to the mayor and city councilors at least 1 year prior to each regular municipal election. The commission has released its first evaluation report in 2013 and has released one every 2 years after. Any changes recommended by the commission will not take effect until the mayor and councilor's next term. While the commission has the authority to consider any and all factors relevant to salaries, it is only tasked with reviewing the salaries paid, not the compensation provided to the mayor and councilors. So in the simplest terms, annual compensation is the combination of base salary and any financial benefits provided by one's employer, whereas salary is the amount of money an employer pays an employee over the course of a year in exchange for the work performed. Next slide, please. So the Office of Internal Audit conducted research and analysis on behalf of the Commission to assist it with its task evaluation. The work performed by our office is a request for non-audit services, which generally accepted governmental auditing standards requires an agreement between both parties, just so that there's mutual understanding as to the relationship and the scope of work to be performed. To this point, the Commission itself is responsible for making the determination as to whether salaries should be changed or remain the same. The Office of Internal Audit is simply presenting the information for the Commission's consideration. But with that said, the Office of Internal Audit is happy to further extend its research and analysis in any way that would best support the Commission with its task. Next slide, please. So the work performed by our office included researching and analyzing comparative pay and forms of government among like cities, the managerial complexity of elected officials, as well as the changes in cost of living, median income, and city population and budget. And we'll dive into each one of those next. Next slide, please. So now we're getting into our findings. So as codified in charter, the mayor is a full-time position and is prohibited from holding any other paid employment. This is explicit in the charter. The mayor acts as the city's CEO. It's a 4-year term and is responsible for representing the city and developing the city's budget, appointing various director heads, and among many other tasks. Next slide, please. So unlike the mayor, charter does not explicitly state whether councilors are part-time or full-time positions and does not explicitly prohibit them from holding other forms of employment, as to which many of them do and have in the past. But we will discuss this later. Councilors' current and historical salary rates have been set to reflect those of a part-time position. Next slide, please. There's also a council president, which the council elects. And in addition to that councilor's district duties, they're also essentially responsible for running all meetings, preparing and disseminating all agendas. And historically, this position has been paid slightly more than councilors. To date, currently they're paid $2,000 more annually. Next slide, please. So based on the commission's last 5 evaluations, the following salary increases were awarded. So you can see here in 2015, there were increases for both the mayor and councilors and as well as the president. So salaries were increased 14% for the mayor to what the salary is currently to $125,000. Councilor salaries were increased 71% and are currently set at $30,000. I'm sorry, forgive me. They were actually increased in 2019 for cost of living, and we'll get to that shortly. And the council president's salary was increased 64% from 19,500 to 32,000. And then in 2017, no salary increases were awarded. And in 2019, the following cost of living salary increases were awarded just for the counselors. So the counselor salary increased 2%, and the council president increased 1%. And those salaries are current today. Looking back at historical city approved budgets from 2015 to 2020, a 1% to 2% wage increase was budgeted for the majority of city employees each year. Fiscal year 2021 was the first year since 2015 where wage adjustments for most city employees were not provided for. And we're waiting the 2022 budget is to be reviewed and hopefully approved by City Council on Monday. So we will know what if should there be a wage adjustment for fiscal year 2022. Next slide, please.
Nicole, just to capture what you said then, from 2015 to 2021, effectively today, the city councilors have received a total raise amount of $600, or 2% for the council members, 1% for the president. And that's the only increase they've seen since 2015.
Correct. And the mayor did not receive a cost of living adjustment.
Right.
So he has had the same salary since 2015. Correct. Okay. So now we're getting into, Leslie, next slide, please.
Can I get you to stand by just for a second? And we have somebody else showing up, it looks like, so we're going to hold for just a second. And then Andrew, you had a question. Okay, hold that question for a second. I'm going to step off screen just to go get that individual, and I'll be right back. They're bringing them in? Okay. Disregard, I got somebody bringing them in for us. So Andrew has a question, Nicole, if you're willing. I'm going to go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. Just to make sure I understand the slide. So in 2015, the mayor did have a salary increase. And it's from 109 to 125, but that was after a voluntary decrease in salary by a mayor previous to that. And while the mayor may have only received a small increase, in 2019, city administrators, including the chief administrative officer, received a much larger increase than that, upwards of 15 or even 20%. Is that correct?
The city, I can't speak to the city administrator's office, but you are correct regarding the mayor. We can add the city administrator's office to the analysis if you would like.
Just a question on when we're talking holistically about salaries and who was getting them and who wasn't. That was I just want to make sure I understood across the board if salaries increases were given in Albuquerque, and they were in 2019 to CKD officials. Thank you. No need for further analysis.
And thank you. Leslie, next. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So this slide is just a visual representation of what I just explained. I don't know if there's any further questions here. If not, then we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we analyzed other comparable cities and how they compensate their elected officials, and examined not only salaries in those cities, but also their structural differences that may affect the officials' compensation levels. So just to reiterate, no single benchmark for comparison is determinative, but benchmarking is a useful tool for analyzing an appropriate range within which to recommend Albuquerque's mayor and city councilors compensation levels. So the Office of Internal Audit benchmarked the following 6 cities: Denver, El Paso, Fresno, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Tucson. These comparable cities were identified based on a variety of factors such as city budget, population size, geographical location, cost of living. And of course, their operating structure, if it was a mayor city council structure. Next slide, please. So this is a busy slide, forgive me, but this kind of shows first, the cities that we benchmarked Albuquerque against, the populations of each city, their structural type, whether or not they have a council president, and this is whether or not they may have a council president, but if the council president is paid an additional amount, their budgets and their FTEs, and basically what we found is that the mayor of Albuquerque salary is in the range of comparable cities for all cities with full-time mayor positions. The mayor's current salary, as I previously noted, was $125,000 a year, and the range based on benchmarking was $68,000 to $184,000. The mean of this range being approximately $119,000 and the median being approximately $136,000. Regarding the counselors, all but one of the cities has full-time counselor positions. Tucson, oh, sorry, not yet. Not quite yet, Leslie, thank you. Tucson, whose counselors are part-time, currently earn $24,000 a year. And as a reminder, Albuquerque counselors who are also part-time or considered to be part-time earn approximately $30,000 a year. However, Tucson recently introduced Proposition 409, which will be voted on on the November general election ballot, and if passed, would increase the salaries for the mayor and city council to $63,000 for the mayor and $42,000 for city council. And this would mean that counselors would earn the median household income in Tucson. Currently, the median household income in Albuquerque is around $52,000 a year. Let's see. So the range of pays, let's see. The range of pay for, sorry, was there a question?
Before you move on, we had an additional individual show up for the meeting, so I want to make sure we get him officially on the record books as being here through formal introduction. Okay, if you will, just introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, I'm Kent Hickman. I've been wandering around the building for 45 minutes. So I got my workout today.
Okay.
I didn't see the response from Fred as I was driving down here. It was a mess. So anyway, I'm a retired finance professor, and I guess I don't know what else I need to tell you, but
That's good. I think we've just to catch you up, we've gone over the minutes, did formal introductions of everybody that's both on Zoom and in classroom, or sorry, excuse me, in the meeting. We are on government TV live right now. So as I said to everybody else, if anybody does have any questions that they want to ask of the commission, they'll be given a minute and a half to ask those questions. We will take those questions and digest what they say and then formally respond back, but we will not make any formal responses throughout this meeting. And we will let Nicole continue where she is then. Thank you. Hold on.
Quick question to you, Fred. If we have any questions for Nicole regarding.
At any time you wish to answer a question or ask a question, you may ask.
Well, I have one right now.
Okay.
Because when I read through what I'm curious as to why the one city was it Tucson?
Yes, part-time.
Oh, okay.
Nicole, did you catch that question?
No, I didn't hear anything. I think it was on mute.
So his question was, you were just discussing Tucson and you mentioned their salary for the mayor.
Mhm.
I believe and you said it was 62,000 or
42, I guess. Is that the right?
so he wanted to know if that was an outlier, why it was so low. Did anybody do any research on those numbers just to figure that out?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the whole question. So the question was about the Tucson mayor's salary, current salary, or their city council?
The mayor's.
Yes, actually, I do have it. 1 second. I want to give you the right. So the current mayor's salary is $42,000. And if this ballot measure is passed, it will be increased to a little over $63,000.
And the question is, why? Why is it so low?
From reading the ballot justification is that it is a part-time, it was structured as a part-time position. Even though it's kind of similar to our charter, it doesn't prohibit the mayor or the city council from holding other paid positions, other than they can't hold any other city paid positions. But similar to what we found for city of Albuquerque, especially with the city councilors, they are working, they tend to work more than a part-time position.
Part of the reason is that it's a council manager set up so the mayor doesn't have near the responsibilities.
That's what I was wondering, if the mayor, those.
Gentlemen, if I may, because we are on government TV and you guys are not on screen, when you speak, will you please introduce yourself first?
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, Dwayne Trithall. And one of the reasons I believe is that it's a council manager type of government. So the mayor doesn't have near the type of responsibilities that a mayor council type of government has.
To follow up on it, this is Andrew Higgins. I think Nicole too, having, I used to live in El Paso, part of their issue too is that very different structure, like you mentioned, sir. The El Paso city manager makes $360,000 plus. So the mayor's salary is much lower. That would be the educated guess. For sure, with that type of salary on the city manager, it would be hard to justify, I would think, a large salary on the mayor if it's already busting 360 for the city manager.
So Kent Hickman, as far as the mayor's, comparable mayor's duties, we would look at the type and look for mayor council type structure for the city governance. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Right, and many are. So to your point, or to the commission's point, Tucson is a council manager role, and so is El Paso.
This is Dwayne Trithall. On Milwaukee, is there a difference between a mayor council and a mayor common council structure?
We had the same question, and I think it's just a naming convention. We put out specific inquiries to Milwaukee. We haven't received a response yet, but we did have the same question, and we can continue to pursue an answer.
I guess this slide is very busy, and one of the issues I was having difficulty with, without a lot of information, the questions are all being brought up because they're all legitimate, and so we're comparing sister cities, but in a lot of ways they're not, because they have very, very different structures, and I see the type there. But when we're comparing the mayor's salary, then we have to go to the city manager, and us as the audience members, we're answering our own questions and talking about the city manager's salaries in other cities. So that's the level of detail and the data mining I was expecting to see, and we're doing now in the actual meeting,
Right.
the level of discernment.
Mhm.
Okay, so would you like us to, what is there do you have a recommendation? How would you like us to present this differently?
Sure. If you look at 2015, when this committee, even the 2015 committee had you said there was a difference between salary and compensation, but they had a listing in the back, an annex. And a question about city councilor salaries came up, but the person at the time listed an annex that listed city council's healthcare benefits, because it may have only paid 30 plus, but if you're talking about healthcare, that makes me have a little bit of understanding that it may only make 30,000, but the healthcare premium on that covers a lot. So that I can talk about salary now that I understand the compensation. So if you could have more background on some of the benefits and some of the compensation as a read ahead, that way we can get to the meeting and we can drill down immediately on some of these questions, so we don't have to end up this in more of a study session or executive session. It's essentially what we're doing now rather than a meeting.
And Nicole, that would apply also to city councilors. I know they have staff that are paid by the city, so we'd like to address that, dig into that just a little bit, so everybody is aware of not only the compensation of the staff, but the amount of work or what type of work the staff is doing for the councilors.
This is Dwayne Tricol. Do I remember you saying when we started that we're only supposed to evaluate the salaries, not the total compensation?
No, well, if I may, the commission can consider any information it considers relevant to making its determination, but its determination is only whether or not salaries should be changed or remain the same, not total compensation. So not benefits.
Wait, Nicole, Andrew again. My comment to that was, I can't give a salary recommendation without understanding the compensation. And so if I understand what the mayor's annuity is, his deferred compensation, his staff, all of the federal holidays he gets off, then I can understand what the salary really entails. Where a mayor down the road that maybe doesn't have in Tucson, maybe has a lot less, but his compensation is different. Then I can accurately give a salary recommendation because I understand the holistic picture of that person's compensation. The salary is only a small portion of that.
Okay. Do you mind if I recap these comments really quickly to make sure I haven't missed anything? So follow up on common council versus council, get a little bit more information on councilor staff and the nature of their work, and then also include any additional benefits for the comparable cities as well as Albuquerque.
That's a good wrap up. Yes.
Okay, we can do that in time for the next session.
Anything else? And one comment from Kent was, and that references both council members and the mayor.
Yes, sir. Benefits for both.
Yes, may Nicole proceed? Any other questions? Okay, Nicole, floor is yours again, please.
Okay. So I think we can go to the next slide. Leslie, please.
Okay, I'm going to be taking over from here. So we administered a 20-question survey that was sent to all current city council members. The survey focused specifically on how their duties as a council person have evolved and the average amount of time each council person devotes in a week to city-related functions. We also asked questions regarding the pay structure and how they feel the compensation for their role as a counselor equates to their duties. So just to kind of give you some examples of the questions we asked them, do you see the job of city councilor as a part-time position? Are there issues you want to pursue as a counselor but cannot due to time constraints? And in your opinion, does being a counselor involve too much time for someone who has other full-time commitments outside of being a counselor? We received responses from 7 of the 9 counselors, and of those counselors, nearly 90% feel that the position requires at least 30 hours per week to properly serve their constituents. Counselors also felt that the current salary does not support a living wage, and as such, supplemental income from either a spouse, retirement income, or other employment is necessary. And as Nicole mentioned earlier, the city charter currently does not codify the counselor position as a part-time position, as the current wage structure would suggest. Leslie, if you could go to the next slide, please.
Clarify that for us, please. When you say that it's not codified as part-time? Is that what you said?
Correct. So in charter, it does say that the mayor has to be a full-time position and he can't seek employment outside of the city, outside of the mayor position. For city council, it doesn't say anything regarding whether it is a part-time or full-time position. It just says that they can't have other positions within the city.
Well, we do know that based off the responses from the council members that I believe 5 out of 7 said that they are employed elsewhere at this time.
Correct. Yep, I believe that was the number. Yep.
Not all 7, some were retired, but historically, as far back as this committee's origin, city councilors many have held other employment.
Thank you.
Okay. So a lot of talk has been in the news recently. Albuquerque has been discovered. And then going back to the survey, several of the respondents actually attributed that recent growth in the city to their increased demands and hours worked by the council. So that's good for Albuquerque. But unfortunately, the councilors also noted that while this growth is great for the city, it does require the need for more oversight and governance, which again is adding more hours to their schedule as a councilor. Taking this a step further, there are many other factors that also suggest the demographics of the city have changed. Albuquerque has not only had a population increase, the number of full-time employees has also increased. In the years since our analysis done in 2015, the number of full-time employees has increased 11%, with 6,366 people now employed by the city full-time. Albuquerque also operates on a $1.1 billion budget, and that's a 24% increase from the 2015 budget of $893.1 million. Next slide, please, Leslie. So then to help us further analyze the salaries of the mayor and city council, we dug a little bit further and analyzed the cost of living index as well as the median household income. To gauge changes in the cost of living, we utilized the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index. This looks at the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services. We narrowed our focus to the cost of living for the Western region, which does include the state of New Mexico. And we found that the cost of living has increased 13.2% since the last mayoral salary increase in 2015. In the time since the last council salary increase in 2019, the cost of living in the Western region has increased 1.7%. When looking at the changes in the median income, we used data from the US Census Bureau. The median household income specifically is a measurement of the income level earned by a given household, where half of the homes in the area would earn more and half would earn less. So for the median household income for Albuquerque as of 2019 is $52,911, which also represents an 8.1% increase from the last significant pay increase for the mayor and council in 2015. So,
Stephanie, for a question.
oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's a pretty bright group, everyone here.
This is Andrew speaking, by the way.
Thank you. It's a pretty bright group. There's no need, unless Fred has asked for you to read the slides to us. We can read the slides. What are the key takeaways and what are the so whats of those bullet points? What should we be able to take away right now from the slide as opposed to you just reading the slide to us, I guess?
Yeah, so overall, median household income has increased, as well as the cost of living for the region has increased. As far as when we're comparing that to the mayor's salary is going to be significantly higher than the average salary, than the average household income for Albuquerque, whereas that of council is going to be significantly lower.
May I add as well, we found from our benchmarking, at least half of the cities that we benchmarked against at least for the councilors' salaries, they were set based on either the city or the county's median income. And you can see here that our median income is around $52,000 and the salaries for the councilors are around $30,000.
Thanks, Nicole. That's helpful. Breaking down the slide with takeaway rather than just the reading of it. Thanks.
Yeah, and this is Dwayne. One thing I was wondering about is the number of city employees increased significantly, and the budget's increased significantly, but the population's only up 1%.
And here in Albuquerque Public Schools, at moments in massive decline.
Yeah.
Well, APS issue isn't really much of a factor for us here. That your point, Dwayne, is relevant. Would you have anything else you want to add to that, or is just the observation?
I think it's observation that we
Okay.
need to take into consideration of have the responsibilities really gone up 13 or 8% or whatever, or have they not?
Andrew, again, I think one of the points is too, not just when we talk about cost of living, look at the last 9 months to 12 months of real estate in Albuquerque. That is what I'm concerned about the most, where the population is not necessarily increased, but you have one and sometimes two people living in large family homes. When the kids have left long ago, and you see a lot of retirees moving into Albuquerque, and houses are hard to come by, and then justifying an income to support an Albuquerque is much harder for me now than it was in 2019 when I moved here.
Right.
And that's not just anecdotal, that's quantitative.
Well, and Nicole, what I'd like to add now is the Albuquerque Journal a month ago had an article in there from another commission that was looking at crime. They used 5 cities, measures Albuquerque against 5 peer cities, which were Colorado Springs, El Paso, Oklahoma City, Salt Lake City, and Tucson. I had sent an email, and I don't believe that might not have been seen, but I'd like those cities, because they were comparative for our crime stats, that commission felt that they were relevant. I would like those cities addressed for this committee as well, for this commission. If we could get the information, I know obviously we already have El Paso and Tucson, but Colorado Springs, Oklahoma City, Salt Lake City, if we get that information, please. Nicole, are you there?
I am there. It's just writing it down. You know, we actually, Oklahoma City and Salt Lake City were originally included because they had historically been included. But when we looked at their population and budget, it was significantly lower, smaller than ours. But we can definitely add it back in just so that there's more to compare to. So we will add Colorado Springs, Oklahoma City, and Salt Lake City.
Okay. It is almost 10 after 5. What I'd like to do, unless Sarah, you have more that you feel you need to address, taking Andrew's point earlier, what I'd like to do is shift our focus a little bit and take this committee in, and let's first, I would like to analyze the salaries and have a discussion point on the salaries of the counselors. And then once we are done with counselors, have made a determination on what we would like to do, then we come back and address the mayors. Does that work for all the committee members, commission members?
Yes.
Okay. So Sarah, anything else you feel you need to add at this point, or should we move on and start digging into the data?
Yep, nope, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Then what I'd like to do is, if everybody has a copy of the information, that was sent, sorry, which is the package that Sarah was getting all her information from, and the survey that was presented to the city councilors. Did you have a chance to review those?
I did.
Does anybody, I had a couple questions that were driving me. One of those was question number 4, how many hours a week are they working? Out of the 7 individuals that answered, they said anywhere from 6.5 to 40 hours. So it's a 19.14 average. But that range, 6.5 to 40 hours, was a huge variance. So could we address that a little bit as to, out of those 7 individuals, do we have the specifics for each of those individuals, what their questions or what their answer was for those numbers?
Yes, we do. However, we sent out the survey to really garner very honest and truthful answers. So we did set it up to be an anonymous, but we do have the specific examples, if that makes sense.
Yes, so can you give us those numbers? Because I'm curious, out of 7 members, if one of them says they're only spending 6.5 hours a week and the others are spending 40, who's just not by specific names, but give me the breakdown for those 7 members, what their answers were.
Take 1 second here, it just has to load.
And of course, everybody jump in if you have questions as well.
Okay, so we have 8 hours, 20, and again, this is just for counselor and committee meetings. This is not prepping for those meetings, and you know, all the work that goes into to being prepared for them. So this is just attending. So 8 hours, 20 hours, 12, 27, 26, and 40. And bear in mind, we do have a table that shows, you know, counselors can volunteer to, you know, request to sit on various committees. And you can see just by the table in the draft report how the volume of participation from the city councilors on those committees.
So you would attribute those differences in hours probably to the number of these committees that they're on beside the main city council meeting.
Exactly.
And those would be meetings that had to do with city government, not just civic type, you know, I went to the Lions Club or something.
No, these are standing committees, governing bodies, administration, council committees that assist administration, internal council matters, and non-city committees that include council participation. So it's the Albuquerque Convention and Visitors Bureau, community schools, New Mexico Municipal League representatives. So there's quite a few.
Again, so do you have a breakdown by committee member or by counselor, the number of committees they're on, and then you can see how what they assess, you know, the person who had 40, they're on, you know, 6 committees. The person who was doing 6 was on one extra committee or anything like that. So we have some, you know, we can have some faith that that's what's going on, and they're not just, you know, misinterpreting the question or something even.
Right. We could actually, we could map that. I'm just trying to see if I have it readily available to provide to you.
I'll just give reassurance about what it is that's driving those numbers, at least in my mind.
Because if I want to be reelected to city council, I'm going to tell the public I'm working 40, 60, 80 hours and I'm out doing it. And I'm a little concerned about somebody that would only put 7,
8 hours, yeah,
8.
8, 12.
Yeah, I wonder what's being done. That's a great point. Again, this is Andrew on that. Another question that came up on the city council. I know for the city administration in 2019, the decision was done without council, where there were some of the administrative races that didn't need council to do it. What does city council vote on then for salary increases for members within the city? Because if we're recommending a salary increase for city council members, are they recommending salary decreases or increases for members of the city government that we should be aware of? And that's important to note, because if they're recommending a salary decrease for members of city government, but in fact we're reviewing their own salary, that's important to make that distinction.
And I think when you look at the information that Nicole originally presented, there has been a salary increase for city employees every year up until 2021.
But does city council, has city council been voting on that consistently as far as across the board for those raises?
This is what's said, yes, they have to do that.
So the city council has to vote on those pay raises?
Comes up every year and they must vote. I guess they could abstain, but
Right.
I believe, you know.
That was my question. I want to make sure that if we're making recommendations to them, they're also
buy-in on city government as well on their raises.
Right. Well, and I guess the reason I put it that way was if city council is required to vote on employee raises, and if the city employees have received a raise every year up till 2021, then you could infer that city council has passed those raises, but we don't know what an individual city council member has done. And for the function of what we're doing here, it doesn't matter what an individual city councilor votes on. We're voting across the board for all councilors and the council board.
And I was drawing a distinction between the executive cabinet of the mayor, and he did it without city council, 2019 for the raises, or the chief administrative officer, and there was a deputy. I'd have to look at the list again. I read last night, and then versus the city government that perhaps is not in his cabinet. That's why I'm trying to discern between the two.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions on this?
Yeah, this is Dwayne. Could you give us kind of the same breakdown on question number 5 that you did on number 4?
Sure, just 1 second. I think I have the numbers to the first question. So let me just, maybe it might be helpful to give a range. So on the high end of the range, the counselor that reported 40 hours, spending 40 hours is on 9 committees. And the counselor that reported 7 hours is on 7 committees.
And these committees that they are on, it is by their choice, or is it by their district that they represent? How do they get onto these committees?
I think I actually can't speak to it specifically, but my understanding is that maybe there's obviously interest amongst the counselors on various committees, but they are actually appointed, I believe, by the president, but I can get more clarity on that if you'd like.
I'm just trying to
John, are you able to speak to that?
You're unmuted yet, John.
They're appointed, but obviously the council president would inquire as to whether they would like to serve. On some committees, I know there's a very strong preference by certain counselors to be on certain committees. Because of their importance or whatever, and they may even kind of compete to be appointed to those committees.
So they can either be appointed or volunteer.
Right, but excuse me, but it would be subject to the president's, the president of the council's okay.
And then Andrew has another question.
I just wanted to follow back up on
Hugh, excuse me.
we're talking about as far as council salary. I thought Fred brought up an excellent point, because we're looking at hours of city council, and if someone's on 9 committees and it's taking 40, and if we have another member that's put on 7 committees, either somebody's extremely efficient for their money and doing, or somebody is taking a really long time to push through this committee work and get stuff done. So that's such a broad range.
Right.
I would add that I don't think every committee is designed equally. I think maybe there might be more responsibilities with that are required of council members with that are unique to that committee. There's the Finance and Government Operations Committee, which I know has very long meetings, and there's a lot of material that goes into those. Public safety, whereas the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee may not require as much time. So I don't think we can just look at it by the count. I think every committee is different and may require more or less time depending on the needs.
This is Kent. I have one more real quick question since we're talking about 5 and 4. If you have the data right there, I'd be curious if I was looking at this and I saw 40 come up on as an answer, 40 hours question 4 and 40 hours in question 5. I'd be curious if, because I wonder a little bit about interpretation of the questions. That wouldn't happen to be the same person that answered 40 for both of them, would it?
It was.
I taught a long time. I know how
Yeah,
to read the tea leaves there.
right.
So I suspect that that number is an outlier, and he answered question 4, misinterpreted it, and the 40 hours probably belongs in question 5, would be my guess. I don't know that.
Well, that might relate to question number 8, which when they're asked, what's the minimum number of hours a week a city council should give? And their range was from 20 to 56, with an average of 36 hours. So some members are saying they should only give 20 hours.
Yeah.
And Fred, that's an excellent point, because this individual did report that 41 hours would have been, they consider 41 hours to be the minimum number of hours needed to meet the requirements of the position. So regardless of, yes, there might have been some confusion with the question, because they shouldn't be overlapping hours. It should just be in addition to. Regardless, it's a full-time, they consider this to be a full-time position.
So were you able to get the information for question number 5 that Wayne had asked for? Which was a breakdown of those individual results from each commissioner.
Yes. How many hours each work week do you spend attending related meetings and functions that are not official city sponsored activities?
Yes.
The range here is again 40, which is the same individual for the previous question, and the low end of the range is 4.
Do you have those numbers specifically by council?
No, it was a confidential survey response. So we have the individual responses.
Right. And what are those individual responses? Not with name, but just the numbers that they provided.
Okay, so there's 20 hours, 10, 4, 12, 10, 5, and 40.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions on this survey?
This is Jose. It's just a comment. There's also a certain amount of puffery that goes on. It says, hey, I work 40 hours.
Right.
I don't think it's always entirely, I misinterpreted the question. And I think the puffery goes the other direction too. It's just saying, we're very efficient with your money. I can do this in 5 hours. I can do this in 7 hours, as opposed to, you're saying, wait, every counselor has, I believe, 2 staff to, let's say, the community meeting. Every community meeting I've been to that we thought the city council was going to show up to was always a staff member who always apologized that the commissioner, city commissioner could not be there. City council member could not be there, but they were there in their stead. Those staff members make almost twice as much as the city council makes, but they put in probably equal or more time into these things, not just attending meetings, but also doing all of the research, handing the paperwork over and saying, this is what's going on in the meeting today, and this is what you need to talk about, what we're looking at. All of those things are done by staff members. So while it's good to get out into the community and you do have a fair amount of, committee meetings that you have to be in as a city councilor, a lot of the stuff is done by the staff members.
That's true. And Nicole, can you confirm do the city councilors still have two full-time employees? Has that changed in any way since 2019?
I don't know if it has changed. John, do you know? No, we can see. That can be included as our follow-up to the counselor staff, the nature of their work, how many staff are allotted for each counselor.
Because I do believe in 2019, when we did this review, we also found, to gentleman's point, that some of the counselors were taking credit for some of their full-time staff attending meetings. That, yeah, we attend this meeting, but yet in reality, they had not attended that meeting for quite some time. So they were given hours to us that really was their staff and not themselves that were committed to it. Do you recall that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we just want to make sure whatever numbers they're utilizing to complete the survey, that they're being fair to this commission and their responses, and being fair to the city as a whole. That we know that the city councilors that are being paid to do the job are actually doing the job they're being paid for. So let me ask you a question then. Of the 7 individuals that responded, and not always did you have 7. So out of 9 city councilors, did 2 of them not respond to any of the questions at all?
Correct.
And do we know why?
We don't know why. We worked with city council administrative staff and the city council director. We sent numerous follow-ups, and there was still no response.
All right. Gentlemen, anything else on this, or any other conversational points that you have at this point that you want to, any questions you want to raise?
I have a council question.
Yeah.
This is Ken. And I guess I'm relatively new to Albuquerque. So how long, what's the term of a city councilor? How many
4
years?
4 years.
4. And are they rotating? Are they staggered? So you elect the 3rd each year, or
They're staggered.
How many councilors are coming up for election this coming year, next year, I think it is?
I don't know off the top of my head. I just know 1 is not seeking re-election, but we can find out how many are seeking or how many are up for re-election.
One of the things that crosses my mind is when you have these elections, are they competitive? In other words, are you attracting candidates? Do you get, like 2 or 3 people running for a councilor position? Are these salaries, attractive? Or are there certain segments of the community that preclude it from running because, if they don't have a second income and they're not on Social Security, they can't afford to do that, or they're from, more economically disadvantaged part of the town or whatever. I just don't know. Do you have competitive races for city council?
It's my perception as a newcomer that one of my biggest surprises is that I haven't heard more about the council as far as either actions or discussions amongst themselves. They're more public. I hear about 3 things when I either watch the TV or when I'm in the paper. I hear about 3 things: the APD, the Albuquerque Public Schools. Okay, those are 2. And then the other thing would be the latest mayor situation. So those 3. Council seems to be very low profile, and I don't.
Yeah,
That's my perception after 2 years. Now, I could be wrong, and they could be much more behind the scenes but I have not felt that. And then
I'd say in Spokane, in Spokane, which, by the way, just before I got this, I looked up Spokane. Its population is 447,000, so it's pretty close to spot on. It has 6,229 employees, pretty much the same. Just an FYI, the budget's 1.1 billion, same as spot on with Albuquerque. Mayor makes 167,000, and the median income's 50,000, which surprised me. It makes me think there's some kind of number problem, because I can't believe Albuquerque has higher median income than Spokane, but perhaps it does. and the city council made 46,000. And we do see the city council up there in the news much more than down here, you know.
Let me pause for just a second because it is just after 5:30. So what time was this meeting scheduled for? So 5:30. Okay. So then from that standpoint, Nicole and Sarah, I think we've hit our window for discussions. But I think what this commission has done is presented several questions to you for research. So we will need another meeting. And we could potentially set that meeting now. We could forecast out for potentially 3 weeks from now. Would that work for everybody's schedule if we looked at 3 weeks from today on a Thursday, same time?
What's the number of that date?
The 22nd of April.
I'm all right.
You okay? Yes or
I'm
no?
okay.
Okay. So Jose's good, Ken's good, Andrew?
I don't think that's actually gonna work. I'm actually gonna make.
Would you be able to zoom in?
Would like to be here personally, but if it works for the group, obviously whatever is best for the group. So we'll do the 22nd. That's
The day before
Jill, that week. So.
or the whole week ago?
Yeah, and I've got another meeting scheduled at exactly the same time,
Okay.
which I'm the chair of, so it's awkward.
So then what about the following week? We'll take it 4 weeks out from now.
No issue with 4 weeks.
20
weeks.
29.
Or 2 weeks.
29.
2 weeks. 2 weeks would still meet our Open Meetings Act requirement. Yes.
I recommend sooner rather than later. We
Yeah.
have the ideas fresh and get all the data back rather than waiting a month.
Would that give you sufficient time, 2 weeks, to turn everything to get all the information we need, Nicole?
I'm sorry, 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
2 weeks. We have conflict for 3 weeks out, so we're looking at 2 weeks out.
So the 15th?
Is that 15th? Yes, ma'am.
I think that should work for us.
Does it work for everybody else on the
Tax
commission?
day.
Okay. Let's keep the same time so it works for Andrew.
Hopefully for everyone. Just
Well, yeah, I mean, but right now it seems your hours are most critical and we want to support that, so. Then I think we have the information, and for sake of brevity for this meeting, I want to thank everybody that's been part of this. I know we have a long way to go and still gathering some information and research, but Nicole, Sarah, if you guys can get that information to us as soon as possible. I just want to make clarification for everybody that whatever information we are given, do not reply all to any information that is out there, because that could constitute an actual formal meeting and would violate the Open Meetings Act. John, is that correct? Heads up. You're muted again, John. John, we're going to have to get you a voice activated unmute button.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, be very cognizant of the Open Meetings Act and don't hit reply to all on your emails. Also, I would warn you against. Just respond to, like, if you get a group email from Nicole or from myself or someone, or just reply to the sender, if you would. Thank you.
Good. Okay, then I know we did potentially get as far as I had hoped today, but our coverage was great and the information and background by Nicole and Sarah were very valuable to us. So we look forward to getting more information. I appreciate it. For all the commission members, I appreciate you making the effort to be participative in this event or this commission and to do your due diligence for the city. So Leslie, I'm going to turn it over to you for any closing things we need to do other than to dismiss. Okay.
Sorry, just one, may I add one thing? So I will be sending, it's for the committee, but Fred, I'll send it to you directly. Just our auditing standards require us to document the relationship for this work, just so that it's known that it's not a non-audit service. So Leslie will be sending that to you just for our internal records for peer review.
Okay. All right, that's fine. And Sarah, anything you have in closing?
No, no, thank you.
John?
Nothing.
Kent? Jose?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Dwayne?
I'm good.
Andrew?
Thank you.
Leslie?
That's it.
At this time, I'd like to request we formally.
There's no public comment?
Is there any public comment?
No, there was not.
Okay.
So again, we officially adjourn the meeting at, my watch just died on me, 5:36.